The logic is, I just clobbered that guy. That is awesome. That was very cool. Keep in mind, this was not even on extended thinking. Anthropic has dropped Claude Sonnet 4.6, which is the most recent model release of today. I do say that in jest, but there really have been a lot of models released lately, which is pretty cool for those interested in such things. Now, as we see right here, the main updates that they have decided to prominently tell us are that it is the most capable Sonnet model, which is probably to be expected based on the name, but it also features a 1 million token context window in beta. Additionally to that, they mentioned that this is now the default model for the free and pro plan users, and something they kind of touch upon in this article is that this is now giving higher intelligence access to a wider amount of people, being that this is now driving the free plans as well. I don't know what the specific usage limits would be, but access to it is there. And we can see right here that this pricing is $3 and $15, so $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output. I believe Opus 4.6 is $5 per million input and $25 per million output, unless you use it on the fast mode, which is like 6 times as expensive. But we can see that essentially, sorry, I'm like overexcited right now. The culmination of everything that is here is just an improvement in model capability. So we'll take a quick look at some of this, and highlighting that something important here is they say that this is often preferred to results from the previous Opus 4.5 model, which was very potent in and of itself. So it will be interesting to see how this compares and maybe run some similar tests that were done with Opus 4.5 with Sonnet 4.6 to see if that actually stacks up. Now, before we get into it, feel free to follow me on X. The username is right here for some hot takes. I'm trying to get into like that, so maybe I'll post more unhinged things on there, as a lot of other creators seem to do comparatively to their YouTube behavior. So with that, we can see that one of the initial things that is prominently displayed here in this announcement post is this model's capability to perform quote-unquote computer use. And essentially what this is, and I actually did do a video on this when it came out, which I think I hid from the channel because it only got like 200 views. They came out with a computer use model, which was essentially autonomously controlling the computer and able to perform tasks in that vein, where it could actually look at a screen and do things almost as a human would in using a computer. They mention right here that this is significantly better, and they include just a benchmark graph here of how each model has been improving in this specific task. Additionally, we do see some benchmarks here of this model as well, compared to Gemini 3 Pro and GPT 5.2, but also they compare it to the previous version of itself, which I like to see, as well as to Opus 4.5, which they say that it does seemingly fare better against, and we can see that it seemingly doing well. I don't necessarily pay too much mind to the benchmarks, but I am always more inclined to pay attention to benchmarks compared to a previous iteration of the same model, such as this one right here. And for further reading, for anyone interested, if you do actually click on the system card thing right here, this is a big lengthy document about this specific model with a ton of more intricate and in-depth information than what one would get from a simple announcement blog post. So I do just mention that there for anyone interested in like intricate further reading. Now, interestingly, if we scroll down, they do actually mention something here called the vending bench arena, and its performance is just showing that it has been able to make more money than the previous Sonnet model. Now, vending bench is really interesting for those unfamiliar. It essentially gives the models the ability to control and run like a vending machine business, and some of the things that have come out of it in terms of like things the models say or think or the actions they perform is really quite hilarious. So for anyone interested in maybe getting a laugh at some models, I would highly urge you to look up like vending bench arena, maybe funny moments or something of the sort, because seeing the models perform in what is really a creative and entertaining test like this is very fun, but also gives us some additional insight into their behavior that's not specifically coding related, as so many things are. And really, that's kind of the culmination of this announcement post. It does have an extended thinking capability and that million token context window in beta, so while we won't necessarily be doing any testing of that gigantic context window, I will run some tests with extended thinking enabled as well. So of course, we're going to start with our browser operating system version 2. However, it could be version 2.5 because they need to create a browser-based operating system with 5 specific applications, 2 of which must be games, but I've added in that one of the games must be 3D. We also need the ability to change wallpaper and then a special feature that they decide upon and implement by themselves. I'm doing this because it shows it in the artifact window and I don't want to see it, so okay, good. I've clicked the code button now, and then we will genuinely get our first look together. Let's take a peek. Oh my, That is quite a quantum aesthetic. Those of you familiar with the Becky Jane quantum space may perhaps see this. It's interesting the way that these actually snap together, and it's like permanently zooming out. I feel now uncomfortable. All right, regardless of that, we do have a clock, a battery icon, and Wi-Fi symbol. They do have hover effects, but we can't click on them. It does also tell us the date. Do we ever right click? There is no right click. All right, well, that's all right. I would have expected there to be. Regardless of that, let's take a look at our Cloud OS start menu. Very good. All right, this is almost like a GPT-5 level dark aesthetic, which is interesting to see. We have a bunch of different things. I'll go through them one by one. First up, our abacus calculator. We can't resize, but there's no need to. Everything here is kind of arranged properly. Can we full screen? Ooh, wow. That is, yep. Can we minimize to the taskbar and reopen? Good. 5.5 divided by 5. I have no idea what that is. 12.5, 11. Good. So that seems to work. 5.5 times 9. 495. Good. A suitable result. Let's try our notepad. This is a fully functional text editor. You can type, edit, copy, and count words. Another word count. I got a word count result recently. It may have now, thinking back, been in the FPS test. I don't think it was, but so that's only one word, and that is correct. Good. And the word count does work. Next up. The Snake Master himself gets to bless his viewers with his skill. All right. Oh, easy. This one's slow. I'm pretty sure the snake is not supposed to be able to just go off of the bounds of the screen and then continue like nothing happened. But if it makes me look like a more skilled player, I'm cool with it. Yeah, that's just weird. This is like a quantum snake. I did that on purpose, just, to make the video go by faster. We do also have the addition of a 3D game, which I'm going to wait to try as the last thing. This is a very feature-packed file explorer, and what I mean by that is there's just a ton of different sample files and things. Even if they don't work, this is one of the most full file browsers or explorers I've seen. New York, 14 Celsius. I don't think it's 14 Celsius in New York. Also, what does this say? Oh, simulated data for demo purposes. That would make sense. Then we have our settings. Oh, it was a quantum inspired thing. Good. That is the special feature, is this quantum particle wallpaper. So that is actually kind of neat. Accent colors can be changed as well. Very cool. And that does actually work. You can see it reflected in our start menu. I think we'll just go back to the quantum one. Now, finally, let's try our special 3D game. Space dash 3D. Mouse or arrow keys to dodge, space to launch. It kind of works. I couldn't really get anything to happen with the keys, but we did see it there, and overall, that was actually when we think about it, it's cool to see. So, all right, we'll try one more. I think we just die instantly. Regardless, not bad. Oh, cool. And now we get the try Sonnet 4.6, which I was doing, so that's good to see. I want to give it the portfolio image for our friend Stevie Slappist and see how well it can turn this wireframe into a portfolio site that would get him hired at a high-end tech firm. And for this, I think I'm going to disable extended thinking because it took so long for the browser OS, and speed is the name of the game when you're testing a new model on a platform and try to get it out. So with that, I'm going to just toggle that with more care. If we try some C++ or more intricate game results, I will re-enable that. All right, let's take a look at our portfolio. Stevie Lapis. I've been noticing a lot of neon green with cursor effects like this recently when given this specific test. So it's interesting to see. And I'm going to say, although it's a bit difficult for me to see right now with this cheap laptop screen as well as these bright studio lights, it did try to actually keep the little lines that were drawn in the initial photo. So available for opportunities. All right, let's scroll down. Building, full stack engineer, product thinker, systems builder, scroll. Building the systems behind the products people love. Software engineer with deep focus on crafting scalable architectures and intuitive user experiences. All right, I'm not going to read that all, but all right, I'm going to say this is actually pretty cool. I would have appreciated maybe like a prominent photo of our friend Stevie Lapis right here, which I think really would have driven this home. But regardless of that, we seemingly have what I asked for down there. Skills and expertise. Advanced, proficient. Oh, okay, so we have skills ranging from expert to proficient. Let's build together. Send me a message, email, LinkedIn, GitHub, resume, CV, X, Twitter. Built with precision. If I saw that, I'd be like, I can't say that. All right, so this is cool. Overall, definitely a good transposition of our source image, and I do like that it kept the lines there. I now want to try the SVG test. I've been getting more into this lately, but just by giving it a special photo, not just saying like make the Pelican SVG. So of course I'm giving it the photo of myself with the Honda Beat, and we're going to have it create an SVG replica of this photo. I most recently, and I think the only other time I've done this, is with Qwen 3.5, the open source one that just came out, and actually did a pretty nice job. So I'll be interested in seeing how this goes. The moment of truth. Wow, that's really good. Now, I can't actually see all of it, so let me zoom out. Can I zoom out? All right, so here is the result side by side with the source. I would say this is definitely a fairly realistic replication of this image, especially considering the constraints in which it had to actually just do this in SVG. I think this is the first time that I've gotten such a detailed facial expression replication as well in such a test. So that's interesting to see. The lighting is decent. It did almost even capture some of the way that the ceiling in this is just exposed wood beams. So cool to see. And then also the shelves of toy cars, the gasoline pump with the specific text that is contained at least partially on there as well. And then it did a good job and care. I think that's a steering wheel and a windshield as well to show the arm of the individual. Overall, pretty cool. Next up, let's try the 3D printer simulation test, and for this I will enable extended thinking, as it's something that could probably benefit by having that enabled. Alright, after a very long time we have our 3D printer result, so let's take a look at it. You're kidding me. I don't ever look at it in the preview window. That's why I'm like going like that, clicking the code button so I can't see the result till we open it. Why is it... I want to make sure this isn't because of my bunk laptop screen. No, it isn't. I just don't see anything. All right, let's start out with the good. The UI looks pretty cool. This seems to have its own kind of stylistic choices with the UI that we see right here. And to be honest with you, I'm for it. I like this. Now, obviously the big issue is that there is no visible printer, but regardless of that, I'm going to just quickly go into the developer tool console. All right, and we will give it this error message. Now, my big concern here is that this is so slow. I'm going to disable extended thinking here when giving it this issue, and we'll give it just a bit of feedback. And it should understand based off of my vibe-coded suggestion and how to fix this. So regardless of that though, like I said, I do like the UI. Here's our supposedly fixed 3D printer result. Ooh, all right, hold on. It's quite nice looking. Now, I'm going to say it looks like it may be a bed slinger. Let's just click print. The models were very good looking. I mean, the actual aluminum on the gantry here, it even has the Z screws. Now, these are real, I mean, in some certain, like now kind of cheaper level printers, they have these stepper motors down here, something like a NEMA 17 motor. And then it has a big Z screw, which is what handles actually getting the gantry up and down at that angle. It did look pretty realistic here. We even do seemingly have some kind of texture that would show that is a kind of Z screw. Now, for the bad, the actual entirety of the 3D printing experience was garbage. It definitely didn't get it quite right. We can see a bit of how it would have like hypothetically looked in real life, and it would have been cool. Like if that's what it printed, it would have been awesome. Sadly, something was just not quite right here. The pieces were there, they just were not put together at all correctly. So interesting. I'm going to give it the Flight Combat Simulator game test here without extended thinking enabled because I'm curious to see how it performs, and I want to actually check how a previous version of this model did on this specific test. So here's a result on this from Opus 4.5 with extended thinking enabled, keeping that in mind, and this was really like a fantastic result. The plane models were kind of a little odd, and some of the shooting logic seems to have now not been working 100%, but still, this was a pretty good result. Keeping in mind the raster over the screen here is just a result of the actual website and not the generated result, so just keep that in mind for a comparable result. All right, here is our Flight Combat Simulator result without extended thinking on. Okay, these plane models look pretty cool, actually, just from what I'm seeing. Let's launch mission and see. It's interesting because Okay, so definitely the game logic does seem to work, and we do have ammunition tracers. This is rather difficult to actually play, and I noticed, interestingly enough, the way it drew the plane models is it only drew half of them. Now, oh, cool. So the opponents do actually have health bars on them, so we can keep an eye on that. And seems like we just got killed. I do believe we did. I think the logic just went weird for that. Let's try a different model here. So here's the P-51 Mustang. And again, so it's only drawn like half of the plane model, which is interesting, but something, again, that could easily be fixed. I notice I do like in the top left corner the actual green kind of specific metrics that one would expect in a flight game. That's cool to see. We also do have an ammo figure down underneath where my head will be inevitably in this video. So it's rather... the turning logic is perhaps a bit too snappy, and it's a little difficult to play, but overall the map looks good. The clouds are cool. We do have effects of when we get hit. I wonder if we crash into the ground, does it actually... No, okay, so we just kind of slide across there. Not bad. To be honest with you, I think what I want to do now, just to have some form of back-to-back comparison of how the result would differ with extended thinking on, I actually want to run this exactly as I did here, except with extended thinking enabled in a new chat, just to see how the result differs comparatively, as that could be cool to see if it's worth it or not with the same specific test. Keeping in mind that each time we run this in a new chat tab, the result would differ anyway slightly, but this should give us some reference or frame of reference for how it differs with extended thinking enabled. So first and foremost, I'm going to notice this script is significantly longer than what was generated without extended thinking, and keep in mind this is a comparison. Okay, very interesting. We have a very different launch screen to what I've seen prior to this. Cool. These plane models are way better. So we do see the F-22 Raptor here is still missing a wing on one side, but the other two, the P-51 Mustang does have proper propeller logic, and the A-10 Warthog actually does look fairly realistic to how that will look in real life. So already from this, we can see a significant improvement. I think I'm actually going to start with that launch. Wow. Okay, so that is a head-to-head of how extended thinking compares to not having it on. And I would say for a result like this, it is a make or break, truthfully. Wow. Yeah, it's smooth. The terrain is better. I mean, the plane models are better. The logic is, I just clobbered that guy. The logic, the logic is better. So extended thinking seemingly makes an incredible difference in the output as we see here. This is very playable comparatively to the previous result. That is awesome. That was very cool. This incredible better result. That was not like proper English. So compare the two. This was the result generated without extended thinking. Now this looks like garbage. This looks embarrassing comparatively to what we get in Sky Fury. Yeah, that's just wow. Okay, so I would just pretty much recommend using extended thinking all the time at this point. That's awesome. I'm so buttered up by that extended thinking flight combat game result that I want to now test this in a self-contained single file C++ skateboarding game with extended thinking enabled, because really that flight game was very, very good, and that was better than what we had received with the previous Opus 4.5 with extended thinking. Are you kidding me? That took so long, and now it's saying... Nope, I'm not waiting again. I'm not waiting again. I'm turning off extended thinking and giving it this task. I don't care. That just took I seriously think that took like 10 or 15 minutes, even perhaps longer. So after the extended thinking failure, we did get our skate game finally, keeping in mind this was not generated with extended thinking. We should be able to launch our game. Okay, so I can't close that. I'm sorry. I'm distracted. It looks pretty good from an initial result, especially keeping in mind this was created without extended thinking. It just does look like our rider may have found himself in a rather painful scenario in starting the game. Yeah. All right. So, oh, good. All right. And look at that. It actually did make separate like body parts, and it has body part animations when we ride. Okay. How do I... A&D's, it's just really slow. It's really, really slow. We did snap on the rail. Now, the biggest issue is that I think the game froze, or we just, okay, let's reset. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so the biggest issue here is the speed is just ridiculously slow. So next up, I want to try the virtual drum kit simulation test where it can create a 2.5D photorealistic or 3D drum kit. Most times now the models opt for doing 3D. This is a substantial project? No, it is not. It is not a substantial project. Alright, here is our drum kit simulation test. Not bad. It did do 2.5D photorealistic. Right as I said the models don't do that anymore, I was proven wrong. Alright. Let's turn on our speaker. Let's see, do we have a kick drum? Yeah, we do. Not bad. All right, overall, it was rather playable. The assets were not bad, and I will say this was fairly properly arranged in terms of how the drums would be in real life. The sounds were alright, none of them were painful to listen to, so not bad. I want to try the beautiful static subway scene using JS, so we're giving it this test, and I figure because of its aesthetic capability that it's always been known for, this could be a relatively impressive result that we get. Alright, let's take a look at our aesthetic subway scene. Now, wow, that is fantastic, because oftentimes they start and they put you outside of the scene so you think that it's just broken. This is very, very, very well done, and keep in mind this was not even on extended thinking. So we do have a pretty visible subway scene. I even do believe there is a person here on the bench. Now regrettably I can't zoom in too much there. Like I can't zoom in more, but this is, I like this. It's very visible. A lot of times that we've done this, well, I think I've only done this like 3 times so far, the results are too dark. This is not the case. This is really quite well done. I'm very happy and pleased with this. It does have the safety strip for the subway, as well as the actual train itself with like a little prong sticking out for power. Nice. Now I did attempt to fix the skateboard game, and basically if it Yep, okay, so perhaps it was fixed too much, but it went from being way too slow to significantly faster and more playable. I do like that this actually has bounds in the corners of the map, because oftentimes they don't, and it just makes it kind of like you go off the map easily. Now, I'm noticing though still the tricks aren't actually working, so very good. All right, I just wanted to fix it because it was basically like there was an e-brake enabled the entire time throughout this game. So you can see that is no longer the case, but the speed values are now set for too high as well because I had tried tweaking those initially. All right, I just wanted to try that as well. I want to try its creative writing capability. So I did this in my previous video, which was the Quen test. So I'm giving it this photo of myself with an AI generated person, and this was also AI generated of myself placing it in, and I'll just do the romance novel test. And I'm telling it to keep it short and simple because last time I think I spent like 5 minutes reading this on camera, which was probably a bit excessive. All right, so we have The Space Between Smiles, a romance novel. Tagline, he found his happiness, she's still searching for hers. Overview, a heartwarming story about a couple navigating the quiet distance that grows between two people who love each other but have drifted apart emotionally. Main characters, Daniel, warm, optimistic, the kind of man who smiles through everything, sometimes too much. Claire, thoughtful, guarded, carrying a sadness she hasn't found the words for yet. Here's our outline. Act 1. Daniel and Claire have built a comfortable life together, but Claire feels unseen. Daniel mistakes contentment for connection. Act 2. A family crisis forces them to spend 2 weeks in Claire's childhood home. Old memories, hard conversations, and unexpected honesty begin to crack the surface. Act 3. Daniel finally listens instead of just smiling through the pain. Claire lets herself be vulnerable. They rediscover each other, not the people they were, but who they've become. Themes. Love is a choice, emotional availability, growing together versus growing apart. Okay, and it did keep it really simple because I told it to, because if each one of these was like 2 paragraphs, I don't think I could have stomached just verbosely reading it. I probably would have. Now, without extended thinking, I'm going to try a Python 3D first-person shooter game where it can't use Ursina. It has to show us a mini-map with the location of the player and the enemies, as well as visible ammunition tracers, so we'll see how this does. All right, so it's decided on its own here to just let me do this in HTML instead. I don't want that. I didn't ask for that, and the only reason it's doing that is because it doesn't have these dependencies available in its little environment. I don't need that. Okay, good. Bro, just give me the Python script. I don't need you to run it in your little sandbox. Got it. All right, let's check out our Python game, Void Runner, start game. This looks very good on first glance. Good. That mini-map is actually really well done. I can't move. And can I jump? All right, well, this was a very initially promising result and the type of thing that you would just be able to tell it, hey, can't move, and the bullets just cause the game to glitch out. But overall, this looks like it, let's just have it fix it. So I've just given it the issues and told it to fix it immediately as fast as you can. I can spot both bugs immediately. All right, let's try the fixed version of this game. I guess we'll call it then. For that, at least, there is one final thing that I want to do here, which is kind of almost like a trolling test, but we'll see how good it is at front-end web design. So I've written, generate a beautiful and aesthetic homepage for OpenAI, highlighting the GPT series of models. All right, so finally, let's check out our OpenAI homepage created by Sonnet 4.6. Ugh. This is so ugly. I just hate this theme. I've been seeing this theme around recently, and I don't know how I feel about it. The GPT series. Okay, GPT 4.0, context length, 03, and we can we slide? No, okay, okay. That's all right. Scroll down, GPT-4T. That'd be 4 Turbo 3.501. Tokens generated, ChatGPT. This is, okay, it has a progress thing. Wow. All right, this is not at all what I'd expected aesthetically. I figured it would look more bright, but very interesting. So that's going to conclude our first look and test of Sonnet 4.6. I have to say that I found the results to be pretty hit or miss, even though the model was in and of itself very competent and performant. Like the Python game that we received, I don't think should have had an error like that. And even if it did, it didn't actually properly fix it, which is kind of rare to see these days, especially for something like that. But I did find that with extended thinking enabled for this model, it is very, very slow, but it is extremely powerful, and the results it generates from that are fantastic. Like this fight game right here, this was hands down the best result I've received in this game test ever. And the difference between extended thinking being enabled and disabled here was night and day. I mean, this was the result here with extended thinking off, and you can see it is nowhere near as good or playable. And this is the same model with extended thinking on, and it basically created a game that looks like it came from an entirely different series of model. So extended thinking was very, very good. I mean, that's incredible. So this 3D printer, again, this was kind of what I'm talking about where it was hit or miss, where the first time it didn't work, we gave it the error and told it to fix it. And sadly, still the second time it was just kind of glitched out, even though the actual bones or elements of this were fantastic, like the way it made the printer, the aesthetics. I will say that subway station, which I did have to close because it was just making the fans go too much on the computer, this was gorgeous. Once we got in there, I really liked the lighting. I loved the tile colors on the wall. We even had a solo traveler on the bench there. This was very well done. In addition to that, our portfolio was interesting web design wise. The OpenAI site I had it made was just not, I would have expected something a little more, I suppose, like this. Our browser OS was cool with the quantum desktop special feature. And of course, the 3D game, which didn't 100% work, but it seems like it started to work, but we just lose immediately. But nevertheless, it was a cool result. Then finally, we had our skate game, which I did have to fix because it was just too slow to actually ride around. But I will say, this actually being produced without extended thinking on was very impressive how it did. It put individual parts of the human. There was movement, there were trick logic, and that was actually pretty impressive to get without extended thinking enabled. If you recall, we did try it with extended thinking, but sadly it failed, so I just got triggered and then did it without it. So overall, that's going to conclude our first look and test of the newest release of today, the Sonnet 4.6 model, which I will say with extended thinking on is an absolute monster and does seemingly put the Mac down on the previous Opus 4.5, at least in the specific Sky Fury task that I had performed. So this game really, this is awesome. I mean, that's cool. All right, well, that's going to conclude this. If you have any questions, I guess feel free to leave them in the comments, but I've kind of become a piece of crap and not been replying to the comments because I'm overwhelmed with the amount that I have. So with that, accept my apologies and thanks for watching.